Hey guys, welcome back to the Brik House. Brik the Bounty Hunter here, and today we got week 1 of the Celestial Rumble tier list, the new patch that had just dropped earlier this week. So on the screen right now, we just have essentially, I guess, the results of the U Impact patch, the previous one that just happened. With it only being week 1 of this patch, we will be just moving the Pokemon affected on the patch notes. So as usual, if you guys enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. And without further ado, let's get right into it. So as I said earlier, these are the results that we got from our last patch. We see here that Latios, Blaziken, Rapidash, Alchemy, and Ho-Oh at the top of the must play tier as the winners for that last patch. So the first Pokemon we're going to be starting with is Armarouge, who had its Armor Cannon buffed. The damage from its explosion going up by 30%, as well as the damage from its shockwave going up by around 10%. And Armarouge also got a buff to its flame charge, just the shield ratio going up by 18%. So fairly nice buffs that Armarouge received. We did see some pretty quick nerfs on Armarouge after Worlds happened. Almost kind of this knee-jerk reaction to after seeing it perform fairly well actually in the Worlds competition. So right now we do have Armarouge at around the top of our not bad tier. I think we can honestly leave him exactly where he is for right now. He does have some tough competition to get past before we can really say he's a solid pick. And right now Gardevoir kind of just locking down the top of that not bad tier, really benefiting off of these new map changes as well. So nice buffs to see on Armarouge, but so yeah, no movement for this week. The next Pokemon we'll be going over is Charizard. So Charizard received some massive nerfs. It got a nerf to its Flamethrower, its cooldown, movement speed, duration, and damage all going down. Flamethrower Plus also getting nerfed, around 16% on the ratio. Fire Blast also getting nerfed by around 19%, as well as its damage over time on that AoE affected leaves. Also Fire Blast Plus getting nerfed in the same fashion, going down 19% at that max level. And finally, Flare Blitz even getting nerfed by 40%, nearly a 25% decrease right there. So pretty huge nerf on Charizard, who has been doing very well these past couple patches. And we saw the new rise of Charizard again even during the Worlds, which was, I mean, everyone was very hyped to see Charizard actually being played as much as he has. But it seems that Charizard had flown a little bit too close to the sun, and Unite decided to nerf him pretty substantially. All of his sets getting hit, sadly. And right now we're going to be putting him just above Aegislash, still going to be in our solid pick tier. Although we're going to be having to keep a pretty close eye on Charizard to kind of see how he performs. It wouldn't be surprising to see Charizard fall down to the not bad tier in these coming weeks, given how substantial these nerfs seem, but hopefully he'll land on his feet. So the next Pokemon we're going to be going over in these latest patches is Delphox. So Delphox got a buff to its Flame Charge, its ratio going up by 14%, as well as a buff to its Flame Charge Plus, with its movement speed increasing to 1.5 seconds to 2 seconds. So yeah, it's nice to see buffs to Delphox, pretty small buffs, although the movement speed increase going from 1.5 to 2 seconds could be fairly impactful for that late part of the game. It is a very slight buff, albeit, but we'll keep a close eye on Delphox to see if maybe they want to adjust it a little bit more in the future. Right now, we'll still keep it in the same position, much like Armarouge. Just going to be under Decidueye for right now. So the next Pokemon we got to go over is Ho-Oh. Ho-Oh got nerfed pretty substantially as well. So its Flamethrower damage went down by 10%. Tailwind ratio also going down by around 17%, and the Safeguard cooldown going up from 5 seconds to 6 seconds. Ho-Oh being one of the most dominant defenders in the entire game right now, and definitely one of the best picks you can pull off if you're able to get him in your Masters game. Still going to be keeping Ho-Oh in that same position as our must play. We're definitely going to have to see a pretty substantial change in the rest of the defending crew before Ho-Oh's going to get dethroned from that position, that's for sure. So next Pokemon that we got to go over will be Inteleon. Inteleon getting the buffs to its HP. It's staying relatively the same for the early game. However, at level 15, you will see a 250 point increase on that HP. Defense also going up, much the same, although in that late game you will see a much larger increase, up to 20 points more in your defense and special defense for when that late game hits, giving you a lot more survivability. Also seeing Snipe Shot getting buffed to its cooldown going down, and Acrobatics getting a similar buff with its cooldown being decreased from 7.5 seconds to 7 seconds. So Inteleon was doing very poorly these last couple weeks. We saw him at the lowest of all Pokemon win rate wise, which was quite the fall from grace. So yeah, so these buffs looking very nice for Inteleon. Hopefully that these are going to be enough to take him out of that last place position that he still does find himself in. We will be putting him at the bottom of the not bad tier right now, just under Delphox. We'll kind of, again, keep a close eye on him, much like Charizard, to see how he performs in these couple weeks as we get over the honeymooning phase of these patches and the new map, of course. So the next Pokemon that we got to go over is Latios. Latios getting a nerf to its Dragon Pulse, surprise surprise. Its damage going down, ratio going down from 150% to 128%, and the projectile also going down by around 7% as well. Fairly slight nerfs on Latios right now, and I still would put him as our must play for the week, although the gap between Alolan Raichu and Latios does seem to be closing a little bit, as Alolan Raichu is able to get online a lot easier, a lot quicker than Latios, as it doesn't need to spend all game farming up. I wouldn't be too surprised in the future if after a buff or two to Raichu, it ends up overtaking Latios actually. So next we have Mewtwo X. So Mewtwo X and Mewtwo Y both having their Mewtwo Knights officially added into the game, and is a fixed held item. Mewtwo Knight X being the fixed held item for Mewtwo X, obviously. It also received some buffs to its Pressure, Teleport Plus, and a bug fix to its Future Sight, where before it would deal 2 procs of damage, and the second proc of damage was 50% of what Mewtwo dealt as. Now they switched the wording, and the whole of your team is going to now contribute to that extra damage that the enemy Pokemon will be taking. So you can look at that as a slight buff. Huge buffs for Mewtwo X, and was a Pokemon kind of hovering around our not bad tier near the bottom. Although, and I say this every time I have to talk about them, not the most exciting Pokemon to play. Being said, I think this will be enough to take him at least above Lucario, who we said was funner. This is why we put him above him last time. But we'll put him just under Garchomp for this week. A relatively moderate placement for Mewtwo X. We'll see how it does in these coming weeks. I don't expect it to move much from this not bad tier. The next Pokemon we'll be going over will be Mewtwo Y. So Mewtwo Y also having the Mewtwo Knight Y as a fixed held item. Pressure having a slight change, going to a flat 3% per stack and 35% upon Mega Evolving, so a slight buff nerf on that side. Its recovered movement speed increase being buffed by 20%, as well as that HP recovery from basic attacks increasing 10%. The shield amount also going up, and recovery plus getting buffed by 10% on that HP recovery from basic attacks. And just like Mewtwo X, Mewtwo Y is also having a bug fix / buff to its future site, where the ally Pokemon can now help deal additional damage for that second rock. So nice changes for Mewtwo Y. We will still kind of keep him in the same relative position, much like Mewtwo X, Pokemon that will most likely fill out that not bad spot, and I think it's just by contract at this point, they're very boring to play. So the next Pokemon we will be going over will be Galarian Rapidash. Galarian Rapidash having a nerf to its Confusion, damage going down 10%, and the Dazzling Gleam getting nerfed as well, damage going down by 6%. So very slight nerfs for Galarian Rapidash, however still be keeping Rapidash in that top position, still the most versatile speedster you could probably have on your team. It just can fill so many roles out that most speedsters are just simply incapable of doing. So the next Pokemon we'll be going over is Tinkaton. So Tinkaton getting a buff to its Smackdown, where the hammer is now able to also deal additional damage, starting at 225%. They had also just nerfed the ratios on the rock a little bit, given the fact that this hammer is going to be doing a lot more damage now. So Ice Hammer also getting buffed, and honestly a very interesting buff, it becoming a leap instead of a dash, which does mean that it can go over a lot more walls in the game now, and the ratio going up by 20%. So there's going to be a couple more interesting plays you're going to be able to pull off now that Ice Hammer has a higher use case potential. Thief also being nerfed. The movement speed increase you will get is going down from 25% to 20%, and the movement speed increase when moving towards an opposing Pokemon affected by hindrances is going down by 50% to 40%. A lot of changes for Tinkaton, a huge damage increase for its Smackdown set, and Ice Hammer going over walls is a bit of an interesting change to make for that move, although we will, much like some of these other Pokemon, be keeping Tinkaton just kind of in the same spot for right now. These changes not too impactful for the Pokemon just yet, as these all-rounders just have so much competition amongst each other. So next we have Trevanent. Trevanent getting a buff to its curse. The movement speed decrease is going up by up to 4% at the maximum level. And when your gauge is full, you actually now gain a stun that will stop them for 0.6 seconds, which is honestly a pretty huge change to make on Trevanent, and something that will make him a lot scarier with a huge AoE stun like that. Pain Split also being buffed, the damage redirected increasing from 45% to 50% at that max level, and Horn Leech being buffed, that heal going up 3% of your max HP at that max level. Huge buffs for Trevenant. Really trying to be in contention for one of the most substantially buffed Pokemon in this entire patch. And I think we can pretty safely move Trevenant just to the top, or just to the bottom right now of the solid pick tier. The changes to Curse are honestly pretty game changing, if I'm gonna be honest. Having a stun like that can stop the entire team just gives them so much more of a use case potential. I think Trevenant is definitely on track again of being one of the most dominant defenders in the game, when he was kind of slipping in his win rate, just like Blastoise and Mamoswine the last couple of weeks. And so very nice changes to see on Trevenant when the defenders seem to be getting a lot more competitive amongst each other recently. So next we have Venusaur, also in contention for having one of the best buffs this entire patch. HP going up, really gonna feel that at the later levels, going up 300 points at level 15. And also the defense and special defense going up. This one actually taking an effect at as soon as level 1, special defense even going from 35 to 50. But you'll have over 50 points of defense added at level 15 and 70 points of special defense added level 15. So huge buffs on the base stats of this Pokemon and giving him a lot more survivability. Solar Beam also being buffed, the additional damage is being increased to 2.5% of the enemy's max HP. The tankier the Pokemon, the worse you're going to feel this, as it is going to be affecting your max HP. Yeah, so honestly, these changes have been so impactful. So Venusaur's been a fairly strong pick, although it has always had just very low defenses, and it's very nice to finally see that early game defense and special defense increase for Venusaur. Right now, it is definitely shredding up a lot of the games it is a part of. Solar Beam being so impactful, and as long as you're able just to get a couple ticks off on the enemy with that Solar Beam, that's almost a guarantee for your all-rounder to kind of follow up and get a KO with that. So nice to see that Venusaur is now bulky enough to survive in that early game portion, and definitely has a lot of damage for that late game portion, rivaling Spirit Shackle and Snipe Shot for the amount of damage you can just get off on an unsuspecting opponent. We're definitely going to have to be putting him back up in our solid pick tier, and I think we'll put him right under Miraidon for right now. We may end up putting him a little bit ahead. Again, Solar Beam being a devastating move right now, and really just the return of the Solar Beam set ever since Petal Dance really kind of took over as his most played set. So the final Pokemon we'll be going over is Zacian. Zacian getting a nerf to its Slash, the ratio going down by 29%, and the area of effect damage going down by 14%. Boosted damage also going down pretty significantly by nearly 40% over there to 145% to 208%, and the Play Rough being nerfed by 14%. That boosted damage also getting nerfed by around 19%. So a whole bunch of nerfs all across the board for Zacian. He was definitely a very oppressive all-rounder who you can just throw in the jungle and completely bully any lane he was a part of. He still very much is an excellent option for any Pokemon you need to bully that are a 3-stage evolution, as you can just jump in right at level 4 and almost ensure you're going to get a KO. We will be moving it down just under Scyther for this week, although we'll see how these nerfs affect it in these coming weeks. That will do it for all of the Pokemon affected by those patches, but we also had the release of Pawmot. So Pawmot, when it came out, I was a bit on the fence about it. It had a bit to be desired and some weird bugs like being able to KO your own ally, which is a bit funny, to be honest. However, in Pokemon Unite fashion, they decided to buff a Pikachu clone the day after it came out. And so, one day after the Celestial Rumble patch, we got some huge changes to not only the map, but Pawmot itself. Regidrago had its base XP decrease from 660 to 160, which, I mean, hindsight, 660 that's a pretty crazy number. Groudon also getting a base XP increase, doubling from 440 to 880. So some fairly significant changes to take place, but we also had seen a buff to Pawmot, base HP going up, more so at these later levels, as much as a 2400 point increase at that level 15 mark. Defense and special defense also going up, but again, mostly going to feel it at those later levels, going up by around 70 at that level 15 mark. Also seeing increase to its attack speed ratios, capping at 40%, and also its lifesteal kicking in a little bit earlier, as well as capping at 20% now at level 13. Thunder Punch also being buffed, its damage going up 23%, and in fighter mode, its damage going up 32%. Thunder Punch Plus also being buffed, going up 40%, and fighter mode also going up around 30%. Volt Switch being buffed by 14%, and in fighter mode going up by 26%, as well as a buff to its Unite move, Zip Zap Full Charge Spark, which now resets the cooldowns of Pawmot's other moves upon use. The range increasing by 1 meter. The Unite move Gouge is increasing by 4% whenever you are able to hit an opposing Pokemon. And whenever you use a move, going up to 8% when hitting an opposing Pokemon. So a huge amount of changes to do. It almost looks like these were a bit premeditated in a way. I'm not sure if these were always planned and they were kind of scared if it was going to be too broken if it was released in this state. But right now it seems that Pawmot is definitely a strong Pokemon, and a lot of those buffs that I had just gone over do address a lot of those early game issues Pawmot was kind of finding itself into and struggle to kind of find its placement into the niche of the meta. Right now it's definitely able to stand out by itself as a very strong Pokemon, something to definitely really fear at that level 9 spike, and even at that level 13 spike you're going to be getting a lot of increases still, so you're not going to be slowing down any point during the game and only getting stronger as it goes on. So a fairly strong Pokemon. I think we can put him somewhere around in the solid pick tier. I'm feeling a bit comfortable putting him around Aegislash right now, kind of in the middle of our solid pick tier. If he can kind of hold this position, or if this is kind of that honeymooning phase where it seems good on the surface, but as time goes on, the cracks kind of show and you can see the weakness of the Pokemon. But so far, it looks so good for Pawmot, especially with those hot fixes. Definitely was needed for this Pokemon. It was kind of weak when it released. So that is this week's tier list for the Celestial Rumble Week 1. Let me know if you agree or disagree with any of these placements. I was going back and forth on who had the best buff, but I think it is kind of hands down Venusaur being the best buffed Pokemon for this patch. Solar Beam is so crazy with the damage, and I mean, now that you just don't have to worry about just getting KO'd under your tier 1 goal zone as often as you did beforehand is it's very nice whenever you can play Bulbasaur. So and now that it's easier for them to get online and start throwing out their Solar Beams, they're definitely going to be a hot target that you're going to have to take out if you're going to be going up against one. So anyways guys, I've been Brik the Bounty Hunter. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content, and until next time guys, stay nasty.